In our podcast, Hearing the Unheard, Stories of Transformation, we discuss a variety of sensitive subjects such as suicide, suicidal ideation, self-harm, abuse, and faith crisis. Viewer discretion is advised. So I've been thinking about that, Randy, and, I wonder so much about why we say those cliche phrases in these dark or difficult moments. And I wonder if it's because I think we're selfish helpers. It's almost like we want to tell you what we think will make you feel better, to make us feel better, that we feel like we've helped. And to me, that is a thinking error. We have got to stop thinking like that. This shouldn't be, my helping you shouldn't be about helping me feel better. My helping you should be to be there for you, to sit with you, not to fix you, not to tell you how you should be thinking, not to, take away the pain. It's to sit with you in your pain.
Yeah.
And so I just wonder, how we can make that, bring more awareness to that, because I think, again, well-intentioned, boy, this great plan is so great. It must bring you a lot of comfort. No, it's not bringing me any comfort.
No.
My daughter's dead. I just went through this thing, and you saying that makes it worse.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, just be there and listen, because that is key for anybody to come out of whatever it is they're struggling with. And there's two little demons that you fight on that. Like if it's me, I don't want to cast my burdens upon somebody else, and I just want to be inside myself and not deal with it. As the other demons, just don't deal with it. And a lot of friends would just come over and just sit and just, let me cry, because I was worthless to almost everybody for about 2 years, quite honestly. I would go to work and I would zone out and I would just go through the motions, like be a robot. I would come home, sit on the couch, and pull up YouTube on my phone and zone out. It's the equivalent of trying to just hit the dopamine button and just escape, basically. So the things to say are turned into things to do. One of the things that, and again, if you're at a loss, you're like, don't just say, what can I do for you? Really think, what can you do for that person? There's some critical moments that happen after a big thing occurs, whether it's a death or a crisis in the family, because everybody comes running out of the woodworks to fill that crisis. And it happens that everybody wants to be a part of it, if you will. Not to be
like in the know.
Yeah, it's not, some people want to be that way.
Yeah, for sure.
But other people want to be like, okay, time to go, we're in on it. And they're there for, call it 2 months, the first 2 months, and then it fades. Because the crisis comes down and fades away, but the family or the people involved, it doesn't fade. It doesn't go away. It's still present and still knocking at the door. So
some people might feel like, oh, they've got some momentum now, they're going to be okay, so they walk away.
Yeah. I know I don't really have any other eloquent way of putting this, but put something in your calendar that's 6 months down the road of what the event was, to say, hey, I'm thinking of you, and take them some cookies or something,
I still have in my phone, if we were to go to that day in July, it says Emily Tree Love. I've got that, and it reminds me every year, be thinking about this family. And it was, initially it was, we wanted to go check on the tree every year to make sure it didn't need something, but I've just left it in there so that it's recognized this is not something that just goes away.
Yeah. So that's something that you can really imprint on your heart to say you really care about somebody. That's one little thing. There's other little things, like there's these bracelets that they made. Remember Emily? That happened like day 2. They ordered these things and passing them out to everybody. Before the funeral, there was I still to this day don't know who did it, but this little charm right here is one of 3. There's the heart that's inside that has Emily's name on it. There's the other side that has Stacy. It says Emily's mom, and this one says Emily's dad on here. And it was a keychain, but I turned it into a necklace like day 2 of what I've had it, and I've never been without it ever since. Since then, I had all the kids engraved on the back of it, because I'll side note track of one of the reasons why I didn't ever really bring it up a lot with my kids or talk a lot about it. I talk about the good times with Emily now. It takes a minute to get there, but they've each asked, they're like, how come you don't talk about her? I'm like, I don't want any of you competing with your sister, thinking that I loved her more than any of you, because you are all equal in my eyes. She's not here and I miss her, but I can't have you fighting her ghost. So that's why, a portion of why I haven't ever talked about them.
See, Randy, it's stuff like that is so important, because these are things we don't think about. We don't think about the wrestle that a parent has to go through to try and, it's not just that you've lost this daughter, it's that you have these others that you still are raising and that you love. And it's those kinds of insights that are so powerful as you share them, because one, as I've talked with people who've lost loved ones, the other one that they tend to battle is, I know that I should move on. I know that I should have this healthy life, but you don't understand. The pain makes me feel like I'm honoring her.
Yeah.
Like if this pain numbs, then I'm moving on, and I don't want to move on. My pain
I
is
don't
my
love her as much anymore.
That's right.
Yeah.
My pain is my dedication to her. And that just, to me, if we can remember that about people who've been through loss or been through trauma like this, we'll be a little more careful in our responses and in how we show up for those people.
Yeah. My 3 daughters that are here now are really the reason why I pulled out of my funk. My wife was pretty understanding. That's a whole nother deal. She ended up showing up at the scene that night.
Oh, she did? I did not know that.
Yeah. She felt like she should leave the house because we were gone forever, and she came looking. And
did she track your phone, or
no?
She just went searching?
She went searching. And by that time, they had blocked off the whole road. And the officer came and he handed me my phone. Actually, no, that was later after she got there. I was shocked when she turned the corner and came into the ambulance, and because they didn't tell her what happened. She knew that one of us was dead, and that's all that she knew, was somebody was. They never told her that somebody died. She just felt it when she was walking. She had to walk right past, but they'd had her covered up by then and kind of blocked off.
So she knew once she saw you.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother realm of, like, she checked out immediately. Went in, like, you could see her pupils dilate. Shock. Her eyes just went basically black and just went into full-on denial. And that's the other thing I had to deal with. I'm like, I don't know how to deal with this right now, because my wife says that my daughter's not dead. I know she's dead, and she's denying everybody around. I'm like, how am I supposed to how's this going to work out later on and down the road?
Yeah.
And then the officer brought me my phone. He's like, do you want to call anybody? And the only person I could think to call of was leader of my church, the bishop. And I called him, and I didn't know what to say to him. I said, Emily's gone. He's like, I'm like, she's dead. She's gone. He's like, well, do you need me there? Do you want me to come? And all I could say was, yeah. And then he showed up after my wife, and we were all in there together. He's been through this. He's a really, really good friend right now. But going back to post, like months down the road, when all the chaos is done and life goes back to normal for everybody else, check in on them.
Yeah.
I mean, really, take them out to lunch once in a while, even though I didn't want to for the first little while. I think it took probably about 6 or 8 months for me to like calm down, because I think we were going out to lunch like once a month there for a while. And I don't know.
As you look back on all those things, and there's so much we can learn and so many things. Are there sentiments or things expressed that stick out to you that resonated or stayed with you, or was it all internal? I know that people, when they hear this story, they think there's nothing you can do. I mean, that is as traumatic as life can possibly get for someone. But here you are. I mean, you are 9, almost 10 years down the road, and you found somehow the strength to come and tell this story. So how did you get here? Like, what? If you look back and look at like a benchmark moment, or like a thought.
There's no one particular aha moment. That I spent a long time looking through scriptures, looking through like blessings that she'd had, that we'd had recorded, and trying to find answers, and books, reading books and books of loss and love and heaven and eternals, trying to find something, some way to kind of fill that. And it was hard for me, because I had blamed myself for a long time. I probably still do, not to the extent that I did the night that it happened, or even a few years after, because I am sitting here. It didn't destroy my faith in God and Jesus Christ, or that there is a plan. there's been multiple people who I've had the honor of sharing this burden with. Because of those people, they've lost their children too. Like, they come out of the woodworks they know. Because every loss is different. But I will say this. You know, and you can feel the absolute pain of the loss of a child. You know, I've been told this a few times. You know, when you lose your wife, you become a widower. When your wife loses you, she becomes a widow. When kids lose their parents, they become orphans. What do you call somebody who lost a child? There's no words. But those people, they know the pain. They've been there, and they supported. They become pretty dear friends too. And I had to just keep going. And I came to the knowledge that God loves us all. I don't understand the plan. I'm not even going to pretend to know what that plan is, other than it's hard for me to say this comparison, but it's about the only thing that I can say to kind of put into focus for other people. I know a little bit, just the tiniest bit, about God giving up his son, Jesus Christ, and what that meant. Only a little bit. And I'll find my answers on the other side. That's what I've come to peace with, and I don't have any other way of saying that.
You know, Randy, one thing that's just resonated with me over the last couple of months is there's a verse of scripture that talks about faith is not to have a perfect knowledge of things. And so often in some religious cultures, we have a tendency to think that the whole pursuit of this life is to get perfect knowledge and to eliminate the uncertainties. And if we're really valiant and we're really obedient or we're very righteous or something like that, then we are privileged with this new level of never needing faith. And the more I've thought about this, I just think faith is not to have a perfect knowledge of things. And if this life is about those moments of not knowing and so many unexplained levels of pain that we just can't fathom and we can't make sense of, and if the purpose really is faith, then to me it becomes that moment of surrender, like you just demonstrated. It's, I don't know the answer to this, but I'm choosing to believe that somehow this will work itself out at some point. And that, I don't know why we think that that's weakness. That's the opposite of weakness in my mind. I look at that and I just think, and this isn't to patronize you or to make you feel better. To me, that's the strongest, bravest thing in the whole world, is to surrender to the uncertainty, is to just, I have no idea how this is going to work itself out, but I'm going to trust that there's good in this world and that there's good in this God that I choose to believe in, and that he will fix this, that there's some solution out there that maybe I haven't seen yet, but one day I will have. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, it does. I've learned that it's okay to be broken. I wouldn't say that it's okay to stay broken. You need to let your Heavenly Father fill in the cracks where it's broken. It'll never be the same. And you don't know what you're going to learn. But that's kind of what I've come to peace with, is that I'm a broken individual. I won't say that I can't be made whole in this life, but I don't see how I can be made whole in this life. And that's the peace that I've had to come to.
That's the surrender moment.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. Do you feel like, as you've wrestled with that, because I've noticed that about you, Randy, is that there's almost like a little bit of comfort in the surrender. It's like, okay, I'll go crazy if I'm trying to make sense of everything. There's a little bit of peace that can come from, I don't have to make sense of everything, because someone else eventually has promised that this will be made whole, and that wholeness is in the next. It's to come. Do you feel like that's enough for you?
For the longest time, it was not, but for now, it is. Like, there's a few things that Emily's death taught me, and has given me strength to do. I would say this: I don't know that it's worth the strength that I gained. So I'll say that.
That's totally fair.
So there's a few times in my life where, you get frustrated and you're like, I don't see a way forward and whatever. And I'm like, I've already been through one of the hardest things that anybody could ever go through. This thing doesn't matter. It's,
the pale of the comparison.
Yeah, the things of the world, call it the house, the car, the items or whatever, has lost all of its meaning. That night it lost its meaning to me.
Yeah.
There's the greater call is to find a way to keep your family from shattering. Mm-hmm. And that is the test. I don't care whose family it is. Like, it's hard in this life, and life isn't fair. Life is not fair. So you might as well just swallow that bitter pill and understand this challenge that's in front of me is going to be here. I don't know what I'm supposed to learn. Maybe I know what I'm supposed to learn. I'm not speaking of just Emily's death. It's any challenge that a family or a person goes through, because we all have our struggles and our demons that we try to keep down and don't let fly in society.
Yeah.
But I just know that I'm okay where I'm at, mm-hmm. and that's the only piece I can say. And I let go of trying to be like that perfect family and the perfect this and that's. If you're waiting to be perfect to head down your path to eternal life, you're going to be waiting a while. In fact, Christ might come walking down the path and say, how come you didn't walk towards me?
Yeah. That's well said. That's well said. One thing that resonates with me from what I'm hearing through all of this is like, okay, there's this, let's be realistic. This is the most terrible thing, and there's no escaping it. And then there's almost like this sense in you that's like, I still had to go on. I still had to get out of bed. I had to find a way, because our instinct this fight or flight instinct, especially the flight. You feel the anger for the fight, and then the I want to be a recluse for the rest of my life, that flight, right? But you just realized that as much as that sounds really appetizing to me, I had to get going. I had to keep going. And that your children and trying to keep your family together provided you enough energy to somehow get back out and keep going.
Yeah. There's like this analogy, or call it an image, that I'd have in my head from all this. And it kind of takes us back to, in the LDS community, we revere our pioneers, and, coming across during that time. And it was, the image that I have is, you start on your journey and we've lost a child and we have to bury our child along that trail, like many pioneers did. Many family members died on that path. However, they couldn't just stay there at the graveside. Winter's coming sooner or later, and you need to get to your destination. And that's the image that I had in my head. I'm like, we can only tarry here for so long before we need to load the family in the wagon and keep on going down the trail and get to the destination. And then it's okay if you grieve when you're there or along the way too. I have my come apart moments a few times a year. That first year was every single holiday. And now it's her birthday and her death day, which ironically is a 1 week span from each other.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's a little tender mercy that you don't have it. I don't have it hitting, every 6 months.
Yeah.
That I just have that week where I can just fall apart and be okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah. That is such a powerful lesson that you've shared with us. That it's interesting you use the word tarry, because isn't there a verse that says something like, "Why tarry ye among mourning the dead among the living?"
Well, now you're going to have to go look up your scripture.
Yeah, I know. I need to know my scriptures better.
But better post it down below for people to look at.
The poeticness of that moment is they're telling those that are mourning the death of Jesus that he's living.
Yeah.
That yes, there is this death, and yes, no wonder you are feeling what you're feeling. But the stark reality that you have explained to us is that you have chosen faith in something that is not to have a perfect knowledge of. It's a hope that you hold in the future that she'll be living. And
there's no way that you can tell me that there's not a life after death. Like, I don't care how blue in the face or how much you beat me. I've have my own little tender mercy experiences to know otherwise. And I know that there is a life after this one. I don't know what it's all about. I'm not going to claim to be some theologian on that one, other than I know that there is a plan, and that cliche, isn't it a great plan? And after you can make it through your own self-destructive things, you can actually think about that and say, yeah, there is, and it's going to be okay. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've thought about that poor first responder when she said it's okay, and I flat out, I wasn't mean. I said it exactly like this. I'm like, it's not okay. And I think I feel bad that I haven't went and apologized for that. I mean, I get it that I was in the moment, but I'm at a place finally where I'm okay. Is it okay? we're almost there.
Yeah. Randy, I just want to thank you. First of all, obviously, for just having the courage to be here and to be on this podcast and share this with people. We will never know the impact that this can have. The second thing I want to thank you for is trusting me to be in that space with you through the years. I've never earned that, but you've given it to me for some reason, and it has taught me things that are so sacred to me. And so thank you for letting me sit in that space with you. And thank you for demonstrating to me what it means to be a good father. And that's exactly how I see you, as a good father. And when I hear the details of that night, I'd have done exactly the same thing, step for step. I look at the steps I've made as a father over the last few years, step for step. It is the actions of a father who loves his child. And that's all I see. I don't know if that means anything to you. That's just my own personal perspective. And parenting is awful. It is the hardest thing. It's so hard. And it's because the child will never understand the love that is in your heart for them.
Yeah.
It's like you're 10 steps down the road always, and they'll just never see it. They'll never catch up to it. And yet you still have to be the one who swallows all of the responsibility of the pain and everything. And it's the bravest thing we can do as a father. And I hear you talk about the things that you've shielded the rest of your family from. And I just want you to know I see that. And thank you for giving me courage to try to do that with my own family. 'Cause sometimes it doesn't feel worth it. And but thank you for teaching me that it is. So
I think of the only things, our kids are always worth it. And I think that's the message that God tries to tell us, is that you're going through all these things because you're worth it. And I'm giving you all these things because it's worth it. I'm not going to say he's giving you pain.
Right.
But that's part of this life.
Yeah.
And he's giving us everything. All you got to do is just stay the course.
That's the crazy thing, isn't it? Is that we are experiencing the laboratory in a smaller scale that is his macro reality, right? He feels that love for all of us. He cannot remove all the pain now, but it doesn't mean he does not love. And so we're sampling godhood in a way, and it makes me feel more compassion for him.
Well,
you mentioned sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you mentioned you got a small taste of what it's like to be the father. To me, I mean, I know what you're saying. You're respecting the sacredness of the atonement of Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
But to me, you got a huge taste of it. Huge. Like, as close as anyone I've ever known in my whole life. That's not some it's not a great trophy to give someone.
Yeah, that's not somebody who will.
Yeah,
like,
it's not like, hey, congratulations, you experienced what the Father did.
Because if we're honest, if I could go back and I could give everything that I own up to have my daughter back, I would do that in a heartbeat, a minute.
Yeah.
I would crawl through whatever it is I need to crawl through the rest of my life to have Emily back and to have my family whole. Because kind of like I said, I'm like, it's not really not worth that trophy.
Right.
And I just want people to know that it's okay to be broken. It's okay that you don't have all the answers. And it's okay to push on.
Yeah.
I learned so many lessons early on like our big message that Stacy was even pushing is that you are loved, you are loved, you are loved. And that's how we felt, for those first few years, is that we were loved by everybody that was around us. And parenting sucks, but it's also the most joyful thing that I would never trade anything for my entire life. And I really don't know what to add to that one.
No, that's the perfect ending right there. Randy, thank you so much. I hope our listeners have gathered whatever it is they needed to gather from you, being so strong and courageous to share this with us. And I thank you so much, my friend. Let's go grab lunch sometime.
I'm down for that.
Okay.
Definitely.
Sounds good.
Love you, man.
Love you too. Thank you, Randy.